It is a watercolor week on Better with Art this week, and I have out my new cheap favorite Prang. And I wasn't really thinking about the fact it's circles again, but you'll need something with which you can make circles that will fit into the lid/mixing tray of your watercolors. I have a clean cup of water and a small but not tiny soft watercolor brush. As I typically do when I use watercolors and for a lot of other things in the studio, mixed media wise, I have my water spray bottle and I will use it to activate my paints. I also sprayed some in the lid mixing tray to have plenty to place my colors into. And I started with a bunch. And as I am adding more, let me say welcome or welcome back to Better with Art. I'm Melinda, and I'm here to encourage you to reclaim your creativity and practice creative self-care with weekly small art prompts that can be done in an art journal or on paper if you don't have one. We are using our bottle to make the outline of a circle, or a broken outline of a circle. When I started this one, I thought, well, my paint is too watery. You may have seen people on Instagram making bubbles and Christmas ornaments with this technique. Last year, I made Christmas ornaments. This year, bubbles. As I said, I thought I had too much water, that my paint was too watery, because I wasn't getting a more distinct line around the outside. Not that I want a super distinct line, but my bigger problem here was actually that I was picking up drops along the edge of my circle. And you will notice that problem throughout this project, as well as a really cool effect when you get it right. This one had too much purple. Today's project, at least for how it went for me, was also an opportunity to be reminded to let go of perfection and focus on the process. I guess it could be called a spoiler alert, but I never really got as good a hang of this as I would have liked in the course of this week's art making. And as I always say, that's okay. These are our art journals, a place where we can be comfortable to express ourselves and experiment without fear of what others will think. And that brings me back to the paper thing. If you don't have an art journal or you don't have one yet, and you're using paper, I would suggest a folder or something to keep your Better with art in, because one of the main benefits of an art journal is that freedom to experiment and express ourselves and not be concerned about others looking at it and judging it and, by extension, us. The only person's judgment you have to be concerned about with your art journal is your own. And I'm here to tell you, be gentle and kind. There is no such thing as perfect, and striving for it or some arbitrary standard in your art journal, the purpose of which is not technical mastery, will just defeat the purpose. Just relax and enjoy and get lost in the process. Find flow, that amazing state where all of the other things just fade away. All of the sound quiets, both the sound from outside and from inside. All those noisy, busy, distracting, uncomfortable, unpleasant, unnecessary, spinning thoughts. Okay, some of them aren't totally unnecessary, but we can't be on all the time. We can't be thinking about all the things. We can't be figuring out the answers to everything. And we can't be allowing those negative thoughts that just go round and round and round and convince us that we aren't as worthy as we are, that tell us we are not enough. One of the benefits of art making and letting yourself get caught up in the process is being able to shut off all those negative, self-defeating thoughts. As you have probably noticed by my blotting some of my bubbles, I got way too much water in quite a number of them. And too much purple and too much mud. But again, I'm experimenting and I'm learning, and it's just my art journal. Now I am going to speed things up. I decided I needed to deal with the mud and the overabundance of purple and too much water. But I clearly wasn't thinking enough about the mud when I added color onto what was still there, especially a yellow, which is light and will be contaminated. Isn't the right word typically, but in this case, I think contaminated works. It'll be contaminated easily by everything else. As I had continued with this page, I realized that the first bubble, the one I thought didn't have enough pigment, that the paint was too watered down, was actually a better look than I was achieving with more pigment. And so I played with that a little. I never quite got my colors spread in my tray quite the way I wanted, so I was getting multiple colors on my bottle, but at the same time, not distinctly enough. Everything was mooshing together, if you will. And as I haven't really explained the process previously in this video, you can use something shaped like a circle or something like a cookie cutter with a different shape to create this type of effect. You dip it in your watercolor and stamp it onto your paper, and then use clean water on your brush to soften and spread the line you create with whatever you print with. I was getting too much color into the center for good bubbles. After it dried, it was very clear that for the look I liked, less was more, and I decided to create another page with varying levels of what you could call success, depending on what you are going for. I never quite mastered that whole not picking up a bunch of excess spots of paint on my bottle, which caused my edges to be blurry and bumpy, which not ideal when we're dealing with bubbles or glass ornaments. Based on how mine came out, you can decide how you want to approach yours and what effect you would like to try to achieve. You can play around and try for more than one effect. I will put a link in the description to last year's video with the ornaments. And back to the concept of perfection and not striving for it in our art journals. There's nothing wrong with trying to accomplish a particular effect. There's nothing wrong with practicing and trying to improve your technique. And there's definitely a place for that in your art journal if that's what you want to do. But you need to be able to also let go of it and just let yourself get caught up in the process. If you struggle with that in your art making, in your art journaling, or even if you don't, in today's journaling, we are going to take a look at perfectionism. Is there an area of your life where you are striving for perfection? How would it feel to let go of that need, of that drive, and accept it as perfectly imperfect, just as it is? What might you gain by embracing the beauty of the imperfection? Sometimes those things that we strive to be perfect in are because we feel inadequate. How different would it feel to accept that we are all imperfect? No one can do it all. Do you let other people's expectations keep you running ragged? Or are you afraid to let people down or disappoint them, make them angry at you if you don't keep up a pace you are currently running at? Or maybe the pressure you feel is pressure you put on yourself. What are you afraid will happen if you stop striving in that area? What are you afraid you will lose? And if you think about that area and you think about what you're afraid of losing, compare it to what you might gain if you can ease up a little on yourself and embrace the beauty of the perfectly imperfect. I share my perfectly imperfect, Better with Art journal art with, well, whomever of the world shows up. It's something you don't need to do with your art journal, but I do to encourage you to be okay with the imperfection. And it's important to not strive so hard in life also. I'm not saying that we should be lazy about areas we need to grow. We all need to grow. We all need to work on ourselves. But perfect shouldn't be what we're pursuing because it's impossible. Take some time this week to make some art and consider if there's an area in your life where you need to let go of striving for perfection and what you could gain by doing so. And I will be back next week with another small art and journaling prompt. If you found value in this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you are feeling creative, if you are feeling like making some art, or if you're feeling like it's okay to make imperfect art and not be perfect, I am here to not only encourage you to reclaim your creativity and practice creative self-care. Today, I also want to specifically remind you that you are worthy. If you would like to be part of my quite small and slowly growing online Better with Art community private Facebook group, you will find a link in the description. You will also find a link to be notified of upcoming workshops I will be conducting in person and online with outside my art journal art making. You will also find links to this particular watercolor paint and the art journal I am using that is ideal for my simple form of art journaling that incorporates various mediums. It holds up to the wet and the dry and the layered. I do think I am achieving some interesting effects with this, even if none is exactly what I was going for. And that's okay, because it's my art journal, and I had fun, and I relaxed, and I learned. I also have the opportunity to encourage you to make some art. Thank you for showing up and giving me that opportunity. If you haven't yet, subscribe and make some art, because we are better with art.